An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. Benjamin Franklin. And relevant knowledge, when properly applied, is the most valuable skill we have. Hey everyone, Daniel here, and welcome to Next Level Life, a channel where you can learn all about investing, debt, retirement, and many other financial topics besides, because let's face it, the schools aren't going to teach it for us. So if any of those topics sound interesting to you, or if you want to learn how to better handle your money and have more financial freedom, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell next to my name to be notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to further support the growth of this channel, you can check out some of the links I've left down in the description below, which includes a 30-day free trial of Audible and 2 free audiobooks of your choice, as well as a list of some books that I would recommend checking out with your free trial. Or you can share this video with a friend and leave a comment down below letting me know what topics you'd like me to cover in future videos. So today I just wanted to make a quick video since it is the holiday season and I didn't want to go into anything too deep or take up too much of your time. Therefore, I thought it would be a good idea to take just a little bit of time to introduce a couple of the other sources from which you can learn about money and finances. As many of you know, I learned a lot of what I know about finances from my dad, but he was not my only teacher. Throughout my life, I've sought insight from as many sources as I can possibly get my hands on, and that's an approach that I think everybody should take, regardless of what it is they're trying to learn. And one of the easiest and quickest ways that I've found to get your feet wet in that arena is to read books. So today I'm going to very briefly go over 5 books that I feel everyone interested in increasing their own financial intelligence and getting a better handle on their money in general should check out if they haven't already. For each book in this video, I will briefly discuss who I think the book would be particularly ideal for, and why, using key insights that can be gained from the book. I have left links to all these books in the description below this video. If any of them interest you, feel free to check them out as I said. They're also my affiliate links, so it's a great way to support the channel at no additional cost to you. But obviously, you don't have to feel obligated to use those links if you're not interested in the book. Also, be sure to stick around to the end of the video as I've got a channel update that I'd like to share with all of you. With that out of the way, let's get started. The first book on my list is The Millionaire Next Door, which was written by Thomas J. Stanley in 1996, and it paints a portrait of the typical millionaire thusly. 57 years old, married with 3 children, about 1 in 5 are retired, and 2/3 of those who are still working are self-employed. This gives us a great insight into how important having a side hustle of some sort is, seeing as how only about 20% of the workers in America, at the time of the writing of the book anyway, were self-employed, but they accounted for nearly 2/3 of the millionaires. About half of the millionaires, according to this book, had wives who did not work outside of the home, and those that did were more often than not teachers. The average household net worth was about 3.7 million, however, some had accumulated net worths of well over 10 million, which of course skews that average upward. The median net worth was about 1.6 million. And here's the crux. Most lived well below their means. According to the book, on average, the total annual realized income is less than 7% of those millionaires' wealth. Or, in other words, they live on less than 7% of their wealth. And about 80% of them were first-generation rich. They didn't receive any huge inheritances. They did it all themselves. Now this book is one of my personal favorites, and it's partially because it was one of the first books on money that my dad ever showed me. I think I was something like 12 or 13 years old at the time, but it was something that I was able to follow. So I think it's a great read for anyone really, but particularly those who are just getting started on their own financial journeys. Because it really does help paint the picture that anyone can achieve this $1 million net worth goal, so long as they have their priorities in order and learn the fundamental skills of budgeting, living below their means, and investing consistently over time. The second book on my list is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is written by Robert Kiyosaki in 1997. This is part of a series that teaches people about the basics of financial intelligence. In this book, among other things, Kiyosaki goes over the 4 pillars of financial intelligence, which are accounting, investing, understanding markets, and the law, and he also goes through 6 different lessons that were taught to him by his rich dad, which are that the rich don't work for money, they have money work for them, various reasons to teach financial literacy to begin with, tips for how to, as Kiyosaki puts it, mind your own business, the history of taxes and the power of personal corporations, how the rich invest their money, and the importance of working to learn instead of working to earn. This book may be a little bit lighter on the here is a step-by-step guide on how to specifically do this than some of the other books out there, but it is very good at getting you to think a little bit more like the wealthy, which I think is very important. But if you do prefer books that are more step-by-step based, this probably isn't the best one for you. The third book on my list is 7 Steps to Save Your Financial Life Now, which was written by Daniel Solon. And it's maybe a little bit less well known than some of the other books on this list, but it is a very quick and easy read that gives a lot of good points. As the title suggests, it goes over 7 things that you can focus on and do that can help you improve your financial life, such as making sure that you're always getting reliable data when you're researching finances, ignoring those who are claiming to have the ability to predict the future of the market, because nobody can do that, even if a dead clock is right twice a day, comparing active and passive investing, which I've done on this channel already, not trying to time the market, and avoiding brokers if at all possible, among other things. But as I said, it is a very quick read. Only 48 pages, in fact, compared to the usual 200, 300, or 400 that you get in most of these finance books. So it's an ideal one to check out if you're short on time and don't have more than a couple hours free some weekend down the road and just kind of want a bullet point list of various things that you can do to improve your financial situation. The Behavior Gap is the next book on this list, and it was written by Carl Richards in 2012. It goes over the phenomenon that explains the difference between the return of an investment and the actual return a hypothetical, typical investor gets from that same investment. The difference between those two returns is what Richards calls the behavior gap. And it exists because the typical investor anyway often tends to buy higher than they should and sell lower than they should, simply because most people, especially when they're first starting out investing, tend to invest emotionally, as much, if not more so, than rationally. We saw this pretty recently with Bitcoin, of course. And to quote Richards, it's not that we're dumb. We're just wired to avoid pain and pursue pleasure and security. It feels right to sell when everyone around us is scared, and right to buy when everyone feels great. It might feel right, but it's not rational. So obviously this book also deals with the passive versus active investing debate, but more from a behavioral standpoint than the other books on this list. It also gives some handy tips to help investors and their managers control their emotions when it comes to investing, which is something that is always good to know. As a result, I think this book would be ideal for beginning investors in particular, because it's vitally important to know going in how our emotions may affect our investing behavior, so that when a crisis does inevitably happen, as it will to all of us at some point in our lives, we can be better prepared to manage it. However, at 178 pages with lots of Sharpie diagrams throughout, it is still a breeze of a read compared to most finance books out there. And it could be a good reminder to anyone who regularly invests their money, especially with all the investment fear that's been present in the markets recently. The fifth and final book that I'm going to be talking about today is The Index Card: Why Personal Finance Doesn't Have to Be Complicated. It's a book written by Helene Allen and Harold Pollock in 2016, and is a phenomenally simple guidebook for anyone in charge of managing their own finances, which is basically everybody. It's based on Pollock's premise that pretty much everything the typical investor would ever need to know about money could fit on a single index card. As a matter of fact, that's how this book came about. After an interview between the authors, many people were asking Pollock on his blog for an index card with the financial advice on it. So Pollock jotted down 9 simple rules on the index card, took a picture of it, and posted it online. The image, of course, went viral and was covered by many internet news sites, and later the book was written, going a little bit more in depth to each of the rules, as well as adding a few that they felt may have been left off the original card. Now, the reception of the book was a bit mixed, which I actually find quite interesting. Publishers Weekly even said that while the book was an admirable mission, the rules it goes over are, and I quote, too old and readily available in any listicle to be worth building a book around. It called the book unsatisfying to all but the most unaware consumers. And again, I find that really interesting, or maybe confusing is a little bit better of a word here, because the advice in the book wasn't wrong. I mean, even if you can take certain steps and concepts further than what the authors did in the book, and if you need an example of that, just look at the financially independent retired early community, who have taken the idea of savings rate further than the 10 or 20% mentioned in this and many other books. But it was just simple advice. But again, if the simple advice works, then what exactly is wrong with that? Do we really want financial success to be complicated and or overly difficult to achieve? I don't think so. I certainly don't want it to be that way anyway. So who is this book ideal for? Well, based on the reviews, those who want a simple, easy to implement plan to help get their finances on track. It's not going to teach you anything too complex, and you should know that there are ways to take that advice further than what the authors do in the book, but it's a good starting point. And I mean, just look at the title of the book. Complexity was never supposed to be the point. It's just meant to help get you started on the right track. And I think it does that very well. Because judging by the statistics anyway, I have to imagine that there are still at least a few people who need that first before digging into the more complex side of finances and taking things to the next level. Because if that weren't the case, there probably wouldn't be a whole heck of a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck. At least not as many as there currently are. Okay, for those of you who are still around, it's time for a quick channel update. Holiday season, as I said, is once again upon us, and I don't want to take up too much of anyone's time during this time of year. I'm sure that many of you have plans with either family or friends or both over Christmas and New Year's, and so do I. So in the interest of not taking too much time away from your plans or mine, there will not be a video next Monday on New Year's Eve. I'll also be on the road just after the holidays, as I've got a friend's wedding to go to the first week in January, and unfortunately that means there won't be a video on that Monday either. I will be back the following Monday, January 14th, and I know that last time when my personal schedule got a bit too overwhelming to maintain my regular uploading schedule, many of you were wondering where I was, since I didn't really mention what was going on in my last video, and I apologize for that. I didn't realize that I would end up being gone for nearly as long as I was, and I didn't want to leave you guys in the dark on this one. So I hope you guys enjoy the holidays, and I will see you January 14th. But that'll do it for me today. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell next to my name so you'll be notified of all my future uploads. I generally upload every single Monday, and if you have a friend that would be interested in this kind of content, be sure to share it with them. Let's really get this information out there and start our own financial revolution.